Are you curious to know how Norway, a small and illiterate nation, became the second richest country globally? Despite being the fifth largest oil reserve holder, Norway doesn't fall under the oil curse and is one of the happiest and most democratic nations. How did Norway break away from the curse, which has plagued other oil-rich countries and transformed into an economic powerhouse? In this video, we'll explore the journey of how Norway became the richest country on Earth, and what made it different from other countries with significant oil reserves. Stay tuned to learn how Norway transformed from a poor country to an economic and social paradise. Thomas Malthus, a well-known historical economist, traveled to Norway in the late 18th century. At the time, Denmark was in charge of Norway. The small population of Norway lived in poverty, depending on fishing and small farms for food despite the country's picturesque landscape. Nearly half the year was spent in darkness due to the harsh winters, and there wasn't much arable land available. The mountainous terrain made traveling challenging, and towns were remote with uneducated residents. Norway was poor and far from the prosperous and abundant days of its Viking conquest. War, blockades, and embargoes made Norway's situation worse over the ensuing decades. Widespread famine struck the nation, and its economy collapsed. Despite the gloomy prognosis, Norway is currently the second wealthiest nation in the world, among the happiest and the seventh healthiest. It's also most democratic. With each citizen technically being a quarter millionaire, it excels in almost every metric of a wealthy country. How did Norway accomplish this feat when other nations that attempted to imitate it failed and fell further into poverty? In contrast, some nations with significant oil reserves experienced severe inequality, human rights violations, and other economic and social problems. According to the oil curse theory, a nation's level of democracy and amount of oil it produces per person are related. Although it has a fifth of the world's oil reserves, Venezuela is still the most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere. In contrast, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates all have sizable oil reserves, but they face a variety of problems. Despite the push for cleaner energy sources, oil and gas still contribute 27% of the world's energy production, making them a necessary component. Rich oil reserves can be advantageous for a nation's economy, but they can also cause issues. It can quickly result in a money influx that causes countries to cut taxes and increase spending, frequently displacing other industries. Local manufacturing may suffer as demand for the local currency rises. Politicians pledge to spend more money to win elections, and dictators do the same to hold on to power. This encourages corruption and concentration of wealth among a small number of people at the expense of the general populace. The reason for Norway's notable exception to this oil curse is unclear. After becoming independent from Sweden, Norway was an underdeveloped, illiterate nation. Its economy was dependent on natural resources like lumber, fish, and minerals, but it had developed the fourth largest merchant fleet in the world, which offered invaluable knowledge in trade, technology, and shipping. Additionally, Norway had a robust parliamentary system that permitted social reforms, worker rights, and universal suffrage. To ensure future prosperity, its political power was widely distributed, and there were checks and balances in place. Although the majority of the hydropower is owned by the foreign companies, its geography made it possible to access inexpensive hydroelectricity, setting the stage for industrialization. The Norwegian government passed a law restricting monopolization and foreign ownership, which would later be essential in managing natural resources. The inherent disadvantage that Norway had compared to its European neighbors, however, was significantly reduced during this period by new technologies such as roads, railways, and communication channels, which also sped up industrialization and economic growth. Despite being small and dependent on foreign trade, Norway benefited from strong ties to welfare, education, and public industry. However, Norway was not exempt from the early 20th century's geopolitical and economic forces. It suffered sizable losses in World War I and was invaded and occupied by Germany in World War II. Norway joined international organizations after the war and benefited from assistance provided by the Marshall Plan of the United States. While allowing for the thriving of private competition, the Labour Party imposed strict social democratic rule, with an emphasis on the public sector and centralized planning. From 1945 to 1975, this strategy produced a consistent 3.3% GDP growth annually, with high taxes offset by government spending on education to create a skilled workforce. Unemployment was low, inequality declined, and inflation stayed at a moderate level. The economic performance of Norway at this time, however, was very different from what an economic powerhouse it is today. Even though Norway had caught up to other European countries in terms of economic growth by the 1960s, it was still regarded as a performer of average quality. However, rumors about the existence of oil in the North Sea began to spread after the discovery of natural gas reserves in the Netherlands. After some discussion about who owned the potential oil reserves, Norway asserted ownership over the waters. The Norwegian government started selling oil exploration licenses despite their initial skepticism, and businesses like Phillips Petroleum started drilling. Phillips Petroleum finally struck oil in 1969 after numerous failed attempts, which sparked an immediate oil boom in Norway. Millions of dollars were generated, and the oil industry turned sleepy fishing villages into petroleum powerhouses, generating thousands of high-paying jobs and permanently altering Norway's economy. Norway's oil history differed significantly from other oil-rich countries, despite some similarities. Norway approached its oil industry differently, while foreign businesses flocked to Venezuela and made huge profits without contributing to society. Unlike Venezuela, where power was concentrated in the hands of a single individual, Norway had a widely distributed political power structure that prevented any group from benefiting at the expense of society. Because of the limitations that it held to account, the Norwegian government made decisions based on the welfare of the entire country. Norway understood that the oil curse was not a permanent fix after seeing the effects in other parts of the world. Norway made the decision that its people own natural resources, and that the foreign oil companies should extract oil while the majority of the profit should go to the government. In the meantime, Statoil, the publicly traded oil company in Norway, researched and imitated the know-how of foreign businesses. In order to take full advantage of the opportunity, Norway also understood how crucial it was to invest in its own petroleum processing sector. This required a sizable investment in engineering, central planning, and infrastructure. Norway restricted the oil industry to 90 million tons annually to prevent it from monopolizing the rest of the economy rather than focusing on a short-term popularity. Oil was not seen as a replacement, but as a turbocharger for Norway's economic engine. In conclusion, Norway's strategy for managing its oil industry was distinct from Venezuela's, and it focused on the long-term welfare of its citizens. Despite its desire to use its oil profits for the benefits of the people, Norway encountered problems. The government was unsure of how to allocate the surplus funds brought on by the growing oil industry. The situation got worse when, as is typical for economies dependent on oil, falling oil prices in the 1980s caused a recession and nearly a decade of economic stagnation. Even though Norway didn't waste its oil profits, it still needed to do more to diversify its holdings. Due to the propensity to turn into personal piggy banks for those in power and deviate from their original intended purpose for saving a time when oil revenues declined, other governments had previously tried to address this issue before Norway established its government pension fund, which led to their failure. Norway established its government pension fund in 1990. In contrast to other sovereign wealth funds, Norway's only allowed the government to spend the profits that were anticipated, preventing politicians from making promises to increase spending today at the expense of future generations. The fund also allowed stringent investment guidelines, such as staying away from investments in oil companies and unethical business practices. Most importantly, though, it was prohibited from funding Norwegian businesses. The fund's objective may at first seem odd, but it is to spread out risk. The fund would not be impacted by a sharp downturn in Norway's economy because it's not invested in Norwegian companies, serving as a safety net against domestic setbacks. The fund currently holds shares in 1.5% of all publicly traded companies worldwide, making it the largest of its kind in the world. Its peak value of $1.35 trillion, which would have provided each Norwegian citizen with $250,000, is expected to increase further. While other Scandinavian countries have been forced to reduce their social spending, Norway is using the interest from its oil revenues to pay for healthcare, education, and a safety net for families facing hardship. Despite continuing to have some of the highest taxes in the world, Norwegians never have to worry about covering unaffordable medical expenses. Although Norway's been fortunate, it has taken precautions to set itself up for the future. The Norwegian economy is heavily dependent on oil, which creates well-paying jobs, but the nation also has many other successful industries. Norway would suffer even if oil were to disappear tomorrow, but it would still rank among the richest countries in the world. Does this suggest that Norway is a perfect economy or that other nations ought to try to emulate it? The reaction is unfavorable. Norway has been given a situation that is very advantageous. Not every country has offshore oil reserves worth trillions of dollars. Due to its reliance on the government, it has lessened competition and potential for growth, and as a result, its standard of living is among the highest in the world. The economy in Norway is perfect for Norway, not for the world. And there you have it, the fascinating story of how Norway became the richest country on Earth. From poverty and famine to prosperity and success, Norway's journey is truly remarkable. It's clear that Norway's success is not just due to its natural resources, but also its political system, focus on education, and commitment to social welfare. Norway's success offers lessons for other nations struggling to balance their economic growth with the welfare of their citizens. As we've seen, the oil curse theory doesn't apply to Norway because of its unique approach to managing its natural resources. Norway's success shows that it's possible to use natural resources in a way that benefits everyone, not just a few. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more informative content.